Hello, world history students. This is Mrs. Politsky, and I have your notes for the Far East Unit, Chapter 8, and we're going to be looking at sections 1 and 2. And to start with, I want to take a look at this image here. This is a photograph of the Great Wall of China, which was built about 2,200 years ago. At one point in time, there was roughly 10,000 miles of wall, and today there's obviously far less. There's some of the areas that have been unearthed, but there's anywhere between maybe 5,500 to about 3,800 miles of existing wall, providing security and protection to China over the years. What's fabulous about this is that it's a structure that, number one, is still standing for the most part, and that's remarkable in itself. But it is certainly a great sense of pride for the people of China. In itself, it's kind of an icon. I think when people talk about Great Wall, they kind of automatically know what we're talking about. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Han Dynasty. And previously, we had talked a little bit about ancient China. We're going to kind of move a little closer to modern times now by talking about the Hans. And as we go along, we're going to talk a little bit about Confucianism and some of the relationships there. So, the Han Dynasty restored unity and strengthened China's government by lowering taxes, creating a large bureaucracy, which is a large form of government that's very well organized, restoring stability at a time that China had seen ups and downs with its government. And they also implemented something known as a civil service exam, which is a test that is given to individuals who want to serve in government to prove whether or not they have the skills to serve in government. Number two, how did the Chinese make silk? Well, silk was kind of a trade secret for the Chinese. This is something that they didn't necessarily want to have revealed to a lot of foreigners, but they did raise silkworms. And as you can see in the image below, this is a picture of what somebody might call a silkworm farm. But what they would do is they would unwound the threads of the worm cocoons. And that's basically what you're seeing there are the cocoons. And they would take those threads, they would dye them, and then eventually weave them, seems like a very tedious process. But it was such a lucrative business to make silk because it was so soft and luxurious. Certainly, the Chinese knew that this was a great tradable item. So, to promote order and a person's proper role in society, this led to the foundation of Confucianism or the Confucian philosophy. And according to Confucius, who was the founder, the relationship with the family, such as one between a father and a son, were just smaller reflections of the relationship of the family and society. So you would look at the relationship between the ruler and the subject, or the father and the son, and it really would kind of show you maybe everybody's place in society. Anyway, the teachings of Confucius eventually provided the basis for China's civil service system. And when we talk about the three general responsibilities of each member of a Han family, it is kind of based off of Confucianism. So, this idea that you honor your dead ancestors. And previously, when we talked about ancient China, we talked about ancestor worship. So, that's still kind of a prominent feature here in the Han family or Han society. Along with that, you didn't want to bring any kind of dishonor or disrespect to your family. And so you always wanted to do the things that would bring honor to your family's name. And then finally, you always obeyed those above you in your family hierarchy. And so, like your elders, if that be your grandparents or great grandparents, would always get the highest level of respect. But even amongst your siblings, younger siblings were kind of in a position where they had to respect their older siblings. You never questioned what your older brother or sister would say. You just did what they told you to do, which might be kind of hard to grasp in maybe the modern era. So anyway, we're going to talk about Confucian values, and I'm going to read these scenarios and kind of tell you if they're a Confucian value or a non-Confucian value. So you live with your husband's family or village family, and you work in the fields and you do housework and you always do your husband and mother-in-law's bidding. This is certainly a Confucian value. Number two, your reading list is made of popular novels, travel narratives, and books on technology. This is certainly a non Confucian value. Number three, you do not want to marry the man your rural parents have chosen for you, and you run off to the city to become an entertainer or a weaver in a textile manufacturing plant. This certainly is non Confucian because you're not really respecting your families. Number four, you have gained great wealth from trading and you deal fairly and you don't display your wealth, you don't flaunt it. Your son spends his time studying to pass the civil service exam. This is certainly a Confucian value. Number five, oppressed by the ever rising taxes, you abandon your life as a peasant farmer and you move to the city to become a water carrier because of the fact that you're kind of abandoning your past. This certainly would be non Confucian. Number six, you spend your early and mature adulthood studying the classics, and that gives you a complete guide on how to behave and think and live. This is definitely Confucian. Number seven, you farm the land that your family has farmed for many generations, and you care for your aging parents and ever increasing family. Definitely Confucian value. And then finally, you live in a seaport where you have gained great wealth from trade and you enjoy a luxurious lifestyle and you're in contact with many non-Chinese traders. This would definitely be non-Confucian. So moving on, at number five, Confucius's low opinion of women affected their role in the Han family, which is unfortunate. Women were not educated, which in this day and age seems rather unfair. But if you start thinking about the scope of how women were treated centuries ago, maybe it's not all that extreme for the context of the time. Anyway, women, for the most part, were under the control of their fathers, eventually their husbands, and maybe even their sons. So if your husband would pass away, your eldest son would basically kind of fulfill the role of the male that would be making decisions for the female. Number six lists 10 achievements in art, sciences, and technology that occurred during the Han Dynasty. So there are several here. You had roads, canals, salt manufacturing, iron, the making of alcohol, the civil service system, education, warfare, even warriors, the inventions of the iron plow, paper, a seismograph, which is typically used to measure seismic activity or the activity of earthquakes, a compass for navigation, the wheelbarrow of all things, and finally gunpowder. All these were great advancements of this period of time. Thank you very much.